we're going to talk about solving two-step equations. And first, to do that, we're going to talk about the order of operations because they're very connected. So first, if I have this expression, 3x plus 9, so I don't have an equal sign with that, so it's not an equation, it's an expression. So I want to evaluate 3x plus 9 if x equals 4. So what that means I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 4 and I'm going to substitute it in for x. And we learned when we were solving one-step equations that when I have 3x, that means 3 times a number. So that means multiplication. So this is going to be 3 times 4 plus 9. Now, what my order of operations tells me is that there's a particular order that this math needs to be done in, and it's not always going to be left to right. So first I'm going to do parentheses or any other grouping symbols. I don't have anything there, so I'm not going to worry about that. Next, I'm going to do exponents. Exponents are if I have a tiny little number up here. We're going to get to that later in the year, but I don't have any exponents for now. Next, I'm going to do multiplication and division from left to right. So I have 3 times 4 and then plus 9. So I need to do that multiplication first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle that multiplication. We know that's what it is for this one, no division. And then I'm going to do the multiplication. So 3 times 4 is 12. I'm going to drop down that plus 9. Anytime you don't use something, whether it's an expression or an equation, you're going to drop it down. All right, then I have 12 plus 9, so that's addition. So I'm going to do that addition. I don't have any subtraction, so I'm not going to worry about that. So then 12 plus 9 is going to give me 21. And that's my answer. The value of 3x plus 9 when x equals 4 is 21. So we're going to use that idea to go backwards and solve. So I have 5x minus 7 equals 23. Now, when I think about what's being done to x, I am multiplying by 5 and I'm subtracting 7. I don't have any grouping symbols that I'm going to need to deal with. I don't have any exponents that I'm going to need to deal with. So I am multiplying by 5, multiplying x by 5, and then I am subtracting 7. So what I'm going to do, if my order of operations is to multiply by 5 and then subtract 7, I'm going to do the opposite and go the opposite direction. So the opposite of subtracting 7 is to add 7. And then the opposite of multiplying by 5 is to divide by 5. So opposite or inverse operation, and I'm going to go in the opposite direction. So here I'm going to add 7. And whatever I do to one side of an equation, I'm going to do to the other. So I'm going to add 7, add 7. So over here, negative 7 plus 7 gives me 0. So I'm left with 5x. Drop down the equal sign, and 23 plus 7 is 30. Next, the opposite of multiplying by 5 is to divide by 5. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. That, by the way, is a short way of writing divided by 5. So that multiplies out to 0. So I'm left with x equals, and then 30 divided by 5. So I'm going to write out what that is right there. Is 6. So x equals 6. And I can always check my work if I put in 6 for x. 5 times 6 is 30, minus 7 equals 23. And I'm not going to write that out because I'm trying to keep the video relatively short. All right, on the next one, again, no parentheses or exponents. Again, I am multiplying, this time by negative 2. And then I am adding 16. So the opposite of those is to subtract 16 and divide by negative 2. And I'm going to go in that direction. Wow, that was weird. Sorry. Okay, anyway, so put my line down my equal sign, subtract 16. So this gives me 0, get rid of that, drop down negative 2x equals 5 minus 16. I'm going to use my calculator for that, just to check, because sometimes those negatives can get tricky, and that gives me negative 11. Opposite of dividing, or opposite of multiplying by 2 is negative 2 is dividing by negative 2. Keep the negative with it because you want the x by itself. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 gives me 1, so that's 1x equals, and negative 11 divided by negative 2 is going to be 5.5. So we're not always going to get a whole number, and that's okay. So I am going to talk about this one more time. If this part doesn't help you, then don't worry about it. Order of operations, multiplication or division. We're multiplying by negative 3. And then this one's kind of confusing because we're subtracting negative 3x, but this is a positive 8. So we're really adding 8. And so our opposite there is to subtract 8 and divide by negative 3. Going in that opposite direction. So I'm going to subtract 8. Oh, I'll put my line down the middle. That gives me 0. Drop down, negative 3x equals 15 minus 8 is 7. Oh, that's going to be an ugly number. Oh well. 7 divided by negative 3. Divide both sides by negative 3. And this gives me negative 2.3 repeating. And because it's not what's called a terminating decimal, I'm just going to go ahead and write this as x equals 7 over negative 3, because that's not a nice number. All right, this time, this x over 4 is x divided by 4. So I don't have parentheses or exponents. I don't have multiplication. This time I have division, dividing by 4, and I have addition. So I'm adding 6. The opposite there, subtract 6. And then opposite of division is multiply by 4. So I'm going to opposite direction, subtract 6, sorry, line down the middle. This plus 6 minus 6 gives me 0. So I'm going to drop down x divided by 4. 3 minus 6 is negative 3. I can use a calculator for that. Multiply both sides by 4. So 4x divided by 4 is just 1x. Negative 3 divided by 4 is negative 12. All right, again, no parentheses, exponents. We are dividing by 3. We are adding 8. So we are going to subtract 8. And then, and then multiply by 3. So let's put our line down the middle, subtract 8. X over 3 equals negative 2 minus 8 is negative 10. And then we're going to multiply by 3. That gives me x on the left side. Negative 10 times 3 is negative 30. So to sum up, what we're going to do first is undo any addition or subtraction, addition by subtracting or subtraction by adding, depending on what we have. Then we're going to undo the multiplication by dividing or division by multiplying. Things you need to remember: if you have a negative, that minus sign stays with the number that is after it. So x minus 2, the minus is attached to the 2. So when doing step 2, multiplying or dividing, if the number with x is negative, you need to multiply or divide by a negative to get rid of that negative. So I hope that helps in solving two-step equations, and good luck with the practice.